Ну что я говорил?
Maybe I've got a very dark side. Now, I revisit these films like Come and See or Ivan's Childhood. I regularly watch Mirror. Certain films that challenge you, not just in terms of your perception of the world, but challenge you creatively. The way they use the camera, the way they engage you with their subject and the characters within them. It is a very difficult film, but then films used to be more difficult. Put it this way, films used to be more challenging. If you think of Peter Watkins' War Game, or you think of Ivan's Childhood, or Cranes for Flying, I mean, even more commercially accepted films like Strangelove, I don't think there are so many now, and that's probably why Come and See stands out even more today than it did when it was first made. I think it should be compulsory viewing, actually, because it's the film that nearest depicts certain aspects of the war that I don't think anything else has done, really. It's a funny thing about cinematography, isn't it? You know, I worry when people say 1917 was so beautifully photographed, but it was the First World War, so that doesn't really feel right to me. Some people say, Come and See is ugly, but it's brilliantly photographed. I mean, you wouldn't say it's badly lit, you wouldn't say it's badly composed, but what is bad and what is good? It feels right for the film. It feels real, and it uses different techniques at different moments for different aesthetic reasons and trying to say something different with the way the camera's moving. And Conrad Orr used to say he was really trying to create beauty with ugliness. You know, he wanted to make ugly films that were beautiful, which seems a total contradiction. But, you know, how do you film something that is so brutal but engage the audience with it? There's some really stunning compositions and some stunning techniques. Some of the split diopter shots. And some of the scenes in the rain with the sun. Some of the compositions are just mind-blowingly beautiful. But they don't distract, they connect you somehow, the beauty of them. I like to think in 1917 it's like that, a similar thing. The sort of beauty sort of counteracts, in a way, what's happening in the frame. There's a power sometimes in doing that. And, you know, that landscape that some of Come and See takes place in, it's a similar thing. You leave the horror of the war and then you're going through this natural landscape. It's beautiful when they've got the cow and suddenly all the tracer bullets come across them, which apparently were real. It's pretty scary, but there's a beauty in that, isn't it? When they're under the bridge shooting the Germans, there's a couple of compositions there that are quite mind-blowingly beautiful. And you forget how complicated it must have been to create those compositions. There's a certain poetry to it. It's interesting framing, because just like in the last year or two, there's been a number of films that are coming out with that Academy frame format. You think Lighthouse this year particularly. But I think in terms of Come and See, there's something about the portraits your connection with a character, a very formal square portrait of somebody looking right at you. It's like you can't get away from them. There's nothing on the side. It's a portrait. You're looking at that girl's face. There's a connection there that you see in documentaries quite a lot. When I worked in documentaries, I did quite a bit where I was talking to the subject from behind the camera. So you immediately get that connected eye line. And in a way, I wish I'd have done more in a documentary world and sort of taken that further, because I think it's not something that you see these days. And in some way, you get that in Come and See. I think there's that connection. I'm not really a big fan of Steadicam, although I've used it ever since it was invented. But there's some amazingly choreographed shots, like the use of the Steadicam. I think it's the last shot with the partisans walking into the forest and he joins them, and then the camera leaves them and goes through the trees. And then you see them connecting in the background again. You could have done that handheld, but it would have been telling a different thing and it would have a different effect. So I think the use of Steadicam is really clever. It gives it an immediacy without having that jarring quality of handheld that can be sometimes. The kind of slightly lyrical feel of the Steadicam really works. Or when he's gone back to the family home and you're going inside and outside the house and then you pan back to see the dead bodies and come back to find them again. It's the perfect use of the tool, I think, for what he's trying to do. But he's not overusing it, because sometimes the camera just sort of locks off and you're just there. If you know anything about the war and the situation, your imagination of what was happening there takes over. And I remember when I first saw Come and See, I was haunted forever. And that image of his family and the villagers dead behind the barn or the shed or whatever it was, where he doesn't see but the girl does. And that shot stayed with me and stays with me now. So it's such a brief moment. You hardly see it. It's just enough to recognize the girl's reaction. I think that's the key to the film, in a way, that the horror is something you imagine right until the end, when obviously you see the real footage. And then Klimov is basically saying, I could have shown you something much worse. This is a reality. What you've seen is nothing. It's just incredibly powerful. Like a lot of Russian cinema, I don't really understand what it means. I can't intellectualize or describe it literally, but it really has an emotional effect on me. And that's what I think the power of film is sometimes. It makes you feel something you're not quite sure of why. I do think there's a lot in Ivan's childhood that he's taken and used, but made it his own in a sort of much more raw way. Tarkovsky's much more into the head somehow. He's much more into his own mind, his own spiritual kind of relationship to the world, and you see that in all his films. Whereas I think Klimov was angry. He had something inside him. It's almost like a scream, isn't it? You know, it's like, or a vomit. I don't know, but I just find it fascinating. That's why I guess it's one of my favorite movies, because it doesn't matter how many times I see it, I see something else that challenges my ideas about how you use a camera and images to tell a story, I suppose, and what you tell.